What she admitted about you in private, no one was ready for this. Listen carefully, chosen one. And I speak now because the veil has thinned around your life. Before anyone else realized it, before words were ever spoken out loud, she saw it. Not in public. Not in front of others. But in the quiet, unguarded moments when truth slips out without permission. She admitted something about you, and the moment it left her lips, even she was shaken. This message is not random. You did not stumble here by chance. Something has already been set into motion, and heaven is responding now. Pause for a moment. Breathe. And listen with your spirit, not your ears. From the beginning, you carried a presence that unsettled people who could sense beyond the surface. You never had to announce yourself. You never had to explain your depth. Your energy spoke before your mouth ever opened. And this is what she admitted in private. You are not like the others. There is something different about you. She didn't say it with admiration at first. She said it with unease. Because when she looked at you, she saw patterns she could not explain. Your resilience after betrayal. Your calm after storms that should have destroyed you. Your silence when others would have begged for validation. All of it pointed to something she did not want to confront, that you are protected. Yes. Protected. There are conversations you were never meant to hear, yet heaven allows you to feel the echo of them. In one such moment, she confessed that every time she tried to underestimate you, something stopped her. Every time she thought you were finished, you rose quietly, stronger, clearer, and more grounded. And that frightened her. Because people who rely on control become deeply uncomfortable around those who cannot be controlled. She admitted that you carry an authority that does not shout. A strength that does not threaten. A light that exposes without accusation. And this is why your name kept coming up in rooms you were not present in. This is why your absence was discussed more than your presence. Let me be clear. You were never being ignored. You were being observed. She noticed that when others spoke against you, something within her hesitated. Not because she defended you openly, but because she knew something was off. She admitted that whenever she tried to align against you, her peace left. Her clarity blurred. Her plans stalled. That is not coincidence. That is divine interference. And here is the part no one was ready for. She admitted that you reminded her of someone who cannot be defeated, only delayed. Someone marked, guarded, and watched over. She said, no matter what happens around them, they always land on their feet. Do you understand what that means? Your life has been a silent testimony. Your survival has been a message. Your endurance has been a warning. Even now, as you hear this, something is stirring within you. A recognition. A knowing. That subtle inner voice whispering, this explains so much. Yes. It does. And this is only the beginning of what was revealed. Because what she admitted next, what slipped out when she thought no one was listening, changes everything about how the story unfolds from here. Stay with me. Do not disengage now. What comes next will explain why certain doors are about to open, and why someone is about to confront a truth they can no longer deny. If this message is resonating, stay close. There is more unfolding than you realize. She did not intend to go further. That admission alone already felt dangerous to her. But once truth begins to surface, it does not stop politely. and I tell you this now." What followed was heavier than she expected, and far more revealing than she was prepared to face. In that private space, after naming your difference, she went quiet. Silence stretched. And then she said something that surprised even her own heart. "I don't think they even know who they are." That was not said with arrogance. It was said with fear. Because she realized something unsettling: your power is not loud because it is unclaimed. You are not trying to dominate, impress, or conquer. You move unaware of the full authority resting on your life, and that makes you unpredictable to those who study influence and control. She admitted that if you ever truly awakened to who you are, certain people would lose leverage. Certain dynamics would collapse. Certain games would end. And that realization unsettled her deeply. Understand this: people can tolerate strength they can measure. They can manage talent they can categorize. But unactivated calling? That terrifies them. Because it carries potential that heaven, not humans, decides when to release. She confessed that she tried to place you in a box: labels, assumptions, narratives. But none of them held. You slipped through every framework she applied. One day you seemed distant, another deeply perceptive. Sometimes quiet, sometimes piercingly direct. She could not predict your next move because you were not moving from ego. And here is the truth she did not want to say aloud, yet did anyway. You don't need permission. That is what she saw. That is what she felt. You are not waiting for validation. You are not dependent on approval. You do not crumble when ignored, nor inflate when praised. That emotional independence is rare, and dangerous to anyone who thrives on reaction. She admitted that your presence shifts rooms even when you say nothing. That conversations feel exposed around you. That people reveal more than they intend when you are nearby. This is not accidental. You carry discernment that pulls truth to the surface. And some people feel naked around truth. She also confessed that she noticed how often you were underestimated, and how often those who did so regretted it later. Not because you sought revenge. Not because you fought back loudly. But because time itself vindicated you. That is a sign of divine alignment. When heaven stands behind someone, consequences unfold naturally. No force required. She admitted that she warned others about you, not openly, not directly, but subtly. Be careful with them, she said. They see more than they say. Do you hear that? Even those who did not fully support you recognize that you are not to be played with lightly. But here is where the admission turns even more profound. She said, I think they've been through something that would have broken most people. And she was right. You have walked through confusion without losing your compassion. You have endured silence without losing your voice. You have been misjudged without becoming bitter. That kind of endurance does not come from personality. It comes from calling. She admitted that your pain refined you instead of corrupting you. That your solitude sharpened your awareness instead of hardening your heart. And this contradicted everything she believed about how people respond to hardship. Because most either collapse or become cruel. You did neither. That realization unsettled her more than anything else. She admitted that when she tried to speak against you, the words felt wrong in her mouth. When she entertained negative assumptions, they wouldn't settle. Something kept resisting inside her, as if her spirit itself knew she was touching something sacred. That resistance was not imagination. That was protection. Yes, you are protected. And here is the part she whispered, almost as if afraid heaven itself might hear. I don't think they're meant to be stopped. Do you understand what kind of weight that carries? She was not speaking about ambition. She was not speaking about success. She was speaking about assignment. Some lives are not designed to be blocked, only delayed until the appointed time. And she sensed that time was approaching. That is why her tone changed. That is why observation replaced opposition. That is why curiosity replaced dismissal. Because deep down, she knew that aligning against you could cost her more than aligning around you. And now, this is where the shift begins. Because once someone admits your significance in private, public reality eventually has to catch up. Words spoken in secrecy begin to shape visible outcomes. Awareness alters behavior. Fear alters strategy. And what she does next, what she decides after making these admissions, will expose far more than she realizes. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. And do not underestimate what is quietly rearranging behind the scenes. Because the next realization she comes to, the one she hasn't fully processed yet, will directly affect you, and it will surface sooner than anyone expects. She thought the realization would fade with time. She believed that naming it once, in private, would be enough to release the pressure. But truth does not retreat once it is acknowledged. And I tell you plainly, after that conversation, nothing felt the same to her. She began watching patterns more closely. Not just yours, but the way circumstances bent around you. The way outcomes shifted after you exited a space. The way people's attitudes toward you changed without explanation. She noticed how resistance around you never lasted, how obstacles dissolved quietly, often without confrontation. And that's when the next admission surfaced, this one heavier, more dangerous to say aloud. I think things move for them. Not because you force them. Not because you manipulate outcomes. But because alignment follows you. She saw that when you decided internally, without announcing it, events rearranged. Delays lifted. Confusion cleared. People revealed their true intentions. Doors closed cleanly instead of lingering painfully. This unsettled her because she understood something most never articulate. You don't chase outcomes. Outcomes respond to you. That kind of authority does not come from effort. It comes from position. She admitted that when she tried to compete with you, even subtly, something always went wrong on her end. Plans stalled. Energy drained. Motivation dipped. It felt as if the current itself resisted her movement whenever she moved against you. That is not superstition. That is spiritual law. When someone is walking within divine assignment, opposition carries consequence. Not punishment, but imbalance. Because alignment cannot be overwritten without cost. She admitted that she began to question herself around you. Not in a weak way, but in a reflective one. Why do I feel exposed? She asked. Why does their presence make me reconsider my intentions? That is discernment activating in others. That is light revealing motive. And then came the admission that changed how she viewed you entirely. She said, they don't react the way people should. You didn't lash out when ignored. You didn't beg when excluded. You didn't panic when timelines collapsed. You withdrew, but not in defeat. in observation. She realized that you gather information in silence, that you assess before you speak, that you let people show themselves fully before you respond. This terrified her because it meant you were never as unaware as you appeared. You were simply measured. She admitted that she underestimated your patience and mistook it for passivity. But patience is not weakness. Patience is restraint. And restraint always precedes authority. Then she said something she never thought she would say. I think they see through me. That confession was not about guilt. It was about recognition. You have the ability to see beyond performance, beyond charm, beyond explanations. You discern tone beneath words, intention beneath behavior. And you do it without accusation, which is why people reveal themselves freely around you. You do not interrogate. You do not corner. You simply listen. And truth volunteers itself in your presence. She admitted that this made her cautious, that she began choosing words more carefully around you, that she felt the need to stay consistent, because inconsistency felt visible in your presence. Do you see what is happening? Your awareness is activating integrity in others, or exposing the lack of it. She also noticed something deeply important: the way people eventually circle back to you. Those who distanced themselves. Those who doubted. Those who walked away without explanation. They all, without exception, returned with a different tone. More respectful. More careful. More honest. She admitted that she didn't understand why, but she felt it had something to do with timing. As if people had to lose something first before they could recognize your value. That is often how heaven teaches discernment. Loss sharpens vision. Distance reveals importance. And here is the admission she struggled to articulate, because saying it meant accepting a truth that challenged her sense of control. I think they're ahead of their time. Not in accomplishment. Not in status. But in perception. You see where things are going before others catch up. You feel shifts before they become obvious. You detach before situations collapse. And because of that, you are often misunderstood in the moment, but vindicated later. She admitted that this pattern repeated too consistently to be coincidence. And then, quietly, almost reluctantly, she acknowledged the part that made her uncomfortable to accept. I don't think they were sent here to blend in. That statement carries weight. Some are sent to maintain systems. Others are sent to interrupt them. Not loudly. Not violently. But by existing differently. You disrupt by refusing to conform. By refusing to perform for acceptance. By refusing to shrink for comfort. And that disruption forces others to confront themselves. She realized that your life is not meant to make everyone comfortable. It is meant to be true. And truth always rearranges environments. Now listen carefully. Because after all these admissions, after all this recognition, she arrived at a crossroads she did not expect. Support you. Or distance herself further. Align. Or retreat. And the choice she is leaning toward now, the subtle shift already forming, will reveal her true intentions. What happens next will not be accidental. It will be a response to what she now knows. And when that response surfaces, you will finally understand why certain changes in her behavior feel inevitable. Stay aware. Stay steady. Because the next move she makes will confirm everything you've been sensing all along, and it will set the stage for a revelation that can no longer remain hidden. The shift did not announce itself loudly. It never does. And I tell you this now, watch the subtle changes, because that is where truth reveals itself. After all those private admissions, her behavior toward you began to change in small but noticeable ways. The warmth became measured. The curiosity turned cautious. The ease shifted into calculation. Not hostility, no, but distance with intention. She realized something crucial. Once you see someone clearly, you cannot pretend you don't. And she saw you. She began pulling back, not because you threatened her openly, but because you represented something she could not manage. People like her are comfortable around strength they can influence. But independent authority unsettles them. She admitted to herself that staying too close to you made her question her own motives. That proximity to your clarity exposed areas she had avoided confronting. So she created space, not to harm you, but to protect her sense of control. Do not misinterpret this. Distance does not always mean rejection. Sometimes it means respect mixed with fear. She admitted that she couldn't decide whether you were meant to rise with her or beyond her. And that uncertainty kept her cautious. She began observing rather than engaging. Listening rather than contributing. Watching how others treated you, and how outcomes followed. And then she noticed something else. The more she pulled away, the more others leaned in toward you. Not dramatically. Not loudly. But steadily. Quiet alignment. Subtle support. People who had once ignored you suddenly sought your perspective. Those who dismissed you began checking your reactions before making decisions. That unsettled her. Because it confirmed something she had tried to deny. Your influence does not depend on proximity. You do not need to be centered to be impactful. You do not need to be loud to be influential. Your energy travels ahead of you. She admitted that even when you were absent, your presence lingered. Conversations referenced you. Decisions considered you. Outcomes adjusted as if accounting for your unseen weight. That is spiritual authority. And here is where the internal conflict intensified. She realized that opposing you openly would expose her. Supporting you publicly would elevate you. And staying neutral would no longer be possible for much longer. Because neutrality dissolves when clarity arrives. So she did what many do when faced with truth they are not ready to act on. She delayed. She told herself, I'll wait and see. But heaven does not pause assignments to accommodate indecision. She began noticing resistance in her own path. Delays where there were once accelerations. Confusion where clarity once flowed. Not punishment, alignment correction. Because when someone recognizes divine positioning and chooses avoidance, imbalance follows. She admitted, privately, that things felt off when she ignored you. That ignoring your significance didn't erase it, it amplified the tension instead. And this is when fear quietly crept in. Not fear of you. Fear of missing alignment. She wondered whether distancing herself was a mistake. Whether failing to acknowledge you fully might cost her momentum. Whether heaven had positioned you as a key she was choosing not to turn. That realization was deeply uncomfortable. Because it meant accepting that you are not optional in the story unfolding around her. She admitted that she tried to test the situation. She withheld affirmation. Withdrew support. shifted tone. And then she watched what happened. And what happened shocked her. You did not chase. You did not confront. You did not react. You stayed steady. And instead of shrinking, you expanded internally. Your focus sharpened. Your boundaries strengthened. Your discernment deepened. You moved forward, without her. That was the moment everything clicked. She realized that you are not sustained by people. You are sustained by purpose. That realization stripped away her leverage. She admitted, quietly, reluctantly, that you are someone who cannot be controlled through approval or withdrawal. You are not fueled by external validation. You do not bend for access. And that makes you free. Freedom intimidates those who rely on influence. She also admitted that watching you remain calm during the shift unsettled her more than if you had reacted emotionally. Because calmness signaled confidence. And confidence without arrogance is unmistakable. She realized that you already knew something she was just discovering. This separation was necessary. Necessary for clarity. Necessary for growth. Necessary for positioning. And then, this is important, she recognized that the distance was revealing her, not you. Your silence remained dignified. Your path remained clear. Your alignment remained intact. The tension existed entirely within her. And that is when the final realization began forming, one she has not yet fully admitted out loud, but feels pressing against her awareness. That you were never meant to stay in her orbit. That your trajectory is leading somewhere she cannot follow unless she changes. That your next season will require recognition, not observation. And the decision she is approaching now, whether to finally acknowledge you openly or step completely aside, will determine how the next chapter unfolds for both of you. Pay attention in the coming days. Because what she does next, what she chooses after all these realizations, will expose the truth she has been avoiding. And when that truth surfaces, you will finally understand why heaven allowed the distance in the first place. The moment is closer than you think. And I speak now with urgency, because what unfolds next will lock the truth into place. She has reached the point where silence is no longer neutral. Observation is no longer safe. Avoidance no longer protects her. The awareness she carries about you has grown too heavy to remain hidden, and pressure always demands release. Here is what she is wrestling with in secret. She knows, now without doubt, that you were never meant to remain accessible to everyone. Your availability was seasonal. Your openness was temporary. And the ease with which people once reached you is coming to an end. She admitted this to herself with a mix of awe and regret. They're changing, she said. But not in a way I can stop. She sees it. The way your boundaries are firmer. The way your energy is more selective. The way your time is no longer scattered. You are not closing off, you are ascending. And ascension always forces a decision from those still on the ground. She realizes now that the version of you she observed is not the version that is arriving. The one stepping forward carries clarity, authority, and discernment that will no longer tolerate half alignment. And this is where fear sharpens. Because when someone recognizes your rise too late, they fear being left behind. She admitted something else, something she tried to rationalize away but couldn't. I think they were protected even when I didn't choose them. That admission matters. because it means heaven did not wait for her approval to move on your behalf. Doors opened without her involvement. Clarity came without her guidance. Favor followed you independently. That realization humbles some. It terrifies others. She understands now that you are not rising because of anyone, you are rising in spite of resistance. And that exposes the illusion of influence she once believed she had. She also sees the pattern clearly now. Everyone who underestimated you had to eventually readjust. Everyone who delayed acknowledging you lost timing. Everyone who hesitated missed alignment. And she does not want to be added to that list. So she stands at a final crossroads. One path requires humility. Acknowledging you openly, honoring what she sensed all along, and aligning herself honestly with your growth. This path costs pride but preserves alignment. The other path requires distance, stepping aside fully, releasing control, and watching from afar as your life unfolds without her involvement. This path preserves ego but forfeits proximity. She cannot have both. And here is what you must understand: her choice is no longer about you. You have already passed the test. Your calm, your restraint, your refusal to chase clarity from confused people, all of it signaled readiness. Now the test belongs to her. You were never meant to convince. You were meant to be. And that is why heaven has kept you steady. Why protection surrounded you even when recognition lagged. Why outcomes kept aligning even when support wavered. Because your assignment does not depend on consensus. Listen closely now. The next interaction, whether spoken or unspoken, will carry finality. A tone shift. A gesture. A decision that feels subtle on the surface but definitive in the spirit. You will feel it. It will not hurt. It will not shock. It will clarify. And when it does, you will realize something powerful. The waiting season was never about delay, it was about discernment. About revealing who could walk with you into the next chapter, and who could only observe from the edge. Do not chase acknowledgement. Do not revisit old explanations. Do not reopen doors heaven has already closed quietly. Stand where you are. Because what she admitted about you in private has already reached a higher court. And heaven has rendered its decision. Your next season does not require permission. Your rise does not need announcement. Your alignment is already secured. And very soon, when the truth surfaces fully, you will see why this revelation had to unfold exactly this way. Watch closely. What happens next will confirm everything you've felt. And it will mark the moment your life shifts from being observed to being undeniable.